people like William Craig. I've no time for him. I mean, he's got this sort of loud, rather pompous voice, and he says premise 1, deduction 2, and things like that, and the audience, I suppose, is supposed to be impressed.
If Richard Dawkins is going to mock William Lane Craig for using carefully formulated logical argumentation, then let's take a look at Dawkins' own most precious argument.
The argument from improbability, the ultimate 747 gambit, is a very serious argument against the existence of God, and one to which I have yet to hear a theologian give a convincing answer, despite numerous opportunities and invitations to do so. Let's summarize it as a series of 6 numbered points.
Premise 1, deduction 2, and things like that.
On pages 157 to 58 of his book, The God Delusion, Richard Dawkins outlines or summarizes what he calls the central argument of my book. And when you look at this argument, the conclusion to which is, therefore, God almost certainly does not exist, it is a patently logically invalid argument. Even if you grant all 6 steps in the argument, the conclusion that God does not exist doesn't even follow logically from the argument. So it's on its face, it's logically invalid.
It would seem to me that if he is a rational person, he would have to be able to come to see that this argument is invalid. Because you can simply say, well, if it is valid, show me the logical rules that would lead to the conclusion. You see, logic is not ambiguous. Logic is mathematically clear. For example, let me give you a logical rule. Here's one. If P implies Q and P is true, then Q is true. P implies Q, P, therefore Q. That is a logical rule of inference. It even has a name. It's called modus ponens. P implies Q, P, therefore Q. Here's another rule of logic. P or Q, not Q, therefore P. P or Q is true. One or the other is true. P or Q, not Q, therefore P. That's a logical rule of inference. And there are only about 9 of these. You can learn them yourself. I taught logic to my kids and my wife one summer. And after that, now she knows how to argue with me. But there's only about 9 of these rules of logical inference. And you can assess whether or not one statement follows from another set of statements by applying these rules. And as I say, if Dawkins is a rational person, it would be impossible for him to say that this argument is not invalid, because none of the rules of inference will allow you to derive the conclusion from the 6 statements. So I suspect what he would have to say is, well, I wasn't trying to be a philosopher here. This is a popular level book. I could tighten up the argument if I wanted to. And then I think we have to simply invite him to do so and say, all right, then tighten it up. Show me how it works. And just invite him to do so. And I think then he probably won't do it, if I could judge by his past behavior. It's clear that his atheism is something that isn't based upon argument. Rather, he comes to the table with his atheism and then tries to justify it by invalid arguments like this one.
Indeed, his self-congratulatory attitude about this pitiful argument, sustained even in the face of repeated correction by prominent philosophers and theologians like Richard Swinburne and Keith Ward, is marvelous.
Premise 1, deduction 2, and things like that, and the audience, I suppose, is supposed to be impressed.
I've had William Lane Craig twice on my podcast, and I always had a good experience with him. Having said that, I didn't debate him. I don't know what that would be like. It's something you're not interested in doing, debating William Lane Craig? Or having a conversation, perhaps, with William Lane Craig?
I have done.
Dawkins just claimed to have debated William Lane Craig already. But how accurate a statement is this, especially in light of a number of inconsistencies from Dawkins about his refusal to debate Craig over the years, inconsistencies which even caught the attention of Private Eye? And what's the real reason why Dawkins avoids William Lane Craig? If you want to find out, then you can do so by clicking and watching this video right here.